I'm Martin Tyler, and you're listening to Harry Symeou.
Hey everybody, how's it going? Welcome back to another live episode of the Chronicles of a Gooner, the Arsenal podcast, part of the 90 Min Football Network. I want to start off by saying a huge thanks to all of our listeners, subscribers, viewers that joined me for the live watch along of Arsenal's most prestigious, most important fixture of the season, a clash with Olympique Lyonnais in the Dubai Super Cup. Wow. The Dubai Super Cup really is something, isn't it? Something special indeed. It's so special that they make up their own rules, that you have to have a penalty shootout, regardless of the outcome of the game. In what world do Arsenal batter a Lyon side by 3-0, be completely dominant throughout, and then have to play a penalty shootout for shits and giggles, or in this case, for an additional point to add to their tally as they continue on in the competition? Well, we had the penalty shootout and it wasn't short of entertainment, so I guess it wasn't that bad. But we'll come on to all of that in a little bit. On this edition of the show, we're going to be breaking down Arsenal's performance against Lyon. We're going to be talking about some of the takeaways from it. We'll be discussing some of the individuals, and we'll be getting some of your thoughts as well, of course, from the live chat box. Don't forget to leave a like on the content. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. If you are new, we are now less than 300 subs away from that 25,000 landmark that we are desperate to get to sooner rather than later. So if you are new to the channel, if you are a freeloader watching without being subscribed, what on earth are you playing at? Get involved. Leave a like, subscribe. You know the drill by now. Thank you in advance. Okay, let's talk about it then. So Arsenal, 3-0 winners. Very comfortable afternoon at the office for the Gunners in the Al Maktoum Stadium. Arsenal, of course, came up against a Lyon side who have some decent players in it, has some names that we're very familiar with. We're talking Alexander Lacazette, Jeffrey Adelaide played a part as well in the game. You know what? Just quickly started on Lacazette, right? Listen, I liked him when he was at Arsenal. I thought that, he was the best of what we had at the end, and he was the one that cared the most, and he was the one that gave it absolutely everything. It's just unfortunately for us, he wasn't good enough to, give us what we needed. And I think that's become even more apparent since Gabriel Jesus came in and basically showed us all of the things that we've been missing with Alexander Lacazette for all that time. Now, Arsenal's blunt attack last season, shall we say, was not just down to Lacazette. Aubameyang, even when he was playing prior to all the disciplinary stuff, wasn't pulling his weight, you have to say. Some of the players in and around the centre forward weren't contributing anywhere near as much as they are now. The midfield wasn't contributing anywhere near as much as it is now. So Arsenal's improvement in attack is down to a number of things. One of the biggest being Gabriel Jesus. It's not just because we got rid of Alexander Lacazette that everything's become better. So I get annoyed when I hear people sort of really shitting on him. Like he wasn't good enough to take us to that next level. He was a great servant to the football club. He gave his all every time he took to the field of play. And I think he deserves at least a bit of respect. But watching him today, and I know it was a friendly, and I know you shouldn't read too much into these things, but watching him today, it almost made me feel a little bit sad. Like he just looks so off the pace, so off the boil. He doesn't look sharp enough. He doesn't look fit enough. And he looks very much like someone who the game has passed by. And, maybe in Ligue 1, it won't be such an issue. Maybe against the level of opponent that Lyon will come up against most weeks, it won't be a problem. But I just looked at him today moving around the pitch and I thought, you know what? Yeah, there was a tiny part of me that was sad to see you go. There was a tiny part of me that felt that just because you'd been such a great servant, maybe we could have held on to you and kept you around for maybe one more season as a backup to Gabriel Jesus, or as somebody who could come in and potentially impact games off the bench. But you could really see it today. I think, I don't want to say old age, because there's players much older than Lacazette that look much sharper than Lacazette. But I don't know. It was almost sad to see Alexander Lacazette in that state, in that way, at that level, a level which is far below the level that we know that at times he reached for Arsenal. But yeah, is what it is. We'll get into the Arsenal stuff in a little bit more detail in just a second, but I do want to say some hellos Big hello to Chloe Lewis, who says, Dubai Super Cup. You'll never sing that. There you go. That's a new chant for the terraces. The Dubai Super Cup. You'll never sing that. Love it. James Bond says, nice warm-up game. And he also says you did great with the commentary. Thank you so much. It wasn't really commentary. It was a loose explanation of what was occurring and unfolding in front of me as I watched the game against Lyon. And we had plenty of you guys in the chat box watching it alongside me, which was great. So thank you. I think we had over 11,000 people pop in during that show, which is amazing. Yeah. And so thank you. Also, do you know what? I'm going to say it on here as well, because I said it on the live stream. So it wouldn't be fair of me to not open this up to everybody. When I went into the stream, the live watching along of the game, my intention was to run a competition throughout the duration of the stream, put a question to you guys, get people to send in the correct answers. And those that did, I was going to gift them 2 months free membership on our new membership platform, which is anotherslice.com. You can find the link in the description. Head over to the website if you want to join. You create your account. You follow the instructions that are in the description. Basically, you create your account, then you log in with your account, and you can subscribe to the Chronicles of a Gooner and get access to our premium content and some amazing things that are coming your way. And then as the show kind of went on, I went, do you know what? It's Christmas, man. Like, screw it. It's Christmas. Christmas is around the corner. Let's not bother giving it just to the competition winners. Let's not bother giving it to those, you know, who've got their trivia questions in their heads already and are very good and quick off the mark. Let's just gift it to everyone. So if you sign up to join the Chronicles of a Gooner podcast premium on anotherslice.com, as I say, instructions in the description, I will log in at the back end over the weekend and give everybody 2 months free subscription, whether you're an existing member or not. So if you are already with us on Another Slice, then don't worry, you're not going to miss out or be penalized because you're already with us. I'm going to give everybody this 2-month discount, so you get free membership for 2 months and see how you like it. You know, after 2 months, if you feel like it's not for you, then no problem. I know that it's a difficult time right now. I know that we're building up to Christmas, and I know that there is a cost of living crisis. Believe me, I get letters pretty much weekly from the energy companies telling me that my direct debit's going up. So yeah, I know how it feels. But if it is something that you feel is worth your while and something you'll enjoy, because we've got to do the things we enjoy, right? Then please do check it out. Okay, let's discuss the game. Let's discuss the performance. So the team that Mikel Arteta started was, of course, Karl Hein in goal. He was the goalkeeper in between the sticks. The back four was Cedric Suarez, Rob Holding, Gabriel, and Kieran Tierney. In midfield, it was Mohamed El Neni. And then it was Sambi Lokonga and Martin Odegaard. Fabio Vieira started from the right. And on the left-hand side, we had Reiss Nelson behind, of course, Eddie Nketiah, who was leading the line. And I guess going into this, all eyes were on Eddie Nketiah. You know, Reiss Nelson is someone who's obviously battling for a place, fighting for a place, trying to, I guess, show Mikel Arteta that actually, despite what the fans want, despite what the general consensus is outside of the club, we don't need to bring in a new winger. That's what Reiss Nelson's mission statement would be, right? It would be, you know, I need to prove to Mikel Arteta that actually he can trust me. And he doesn't need to go out and bring someone in who's going to go ahead of me in the pecking order. And I thought Reiss Nelson was pretty good today, actually. I thought it was quite impactful, quite effective. Some nice touches. He hit the post as well in the first half. He came close to opening the scoring on the night, which was, you know, desperately unlucky. He was desperately unlucky. I beg your pardon, to see his effort come back off the post. But as I say, I think all the talk was around Eddie Nketiah, because obviously we've been rocked by this Jesus news. Obviously, we know that we're not as good a side without Gabriel Jesus in it. Okay, there's no question about that. The things that this guy can do, the things that he brings to the table, not even talking about goals, by the way, just everything else, the tenacity, the movement, the flicks, the tricks, the dribbles that really put defenses on the back foot. I mean, how many times this season have you seen him pick it up and almost slalom through 3 or 4 players and make a moment and create a moment and cause havoc? That's what Gabriel Jesus is all about. And to be without that is undoubtedly a blow. But the big question is now, is can Eddie Nketiah step up? And is Eddie Nketiah a good enough cover, a good enough player to fill that void and at least tick most of the boxes that Gabriel Jesus ticks so that we can have as little disruption to our game style, game plan as possible. And hopefully, off the back of that, continue the impressive form that we saw, of course, before the World Cup break. I looked at Eddie Nketiah before this game today, and I obviously I was watching it on TV, and as was everybody else. I'm not out in Dubai. I looked at Eddie Nketiah's face when there were close-ups of him, and I saw someone who looks focused. I saw someone who, okay, won't be happy that his teammates out, won't be happy that Arsenal as a group are now weaker going into a really important part of the season, but we'll probably be looking at this as an opportunity, okay, more than anything else. Is this pressure on Eddie Nketiah? Yeah, there is a bit of pressure, but all good things in life come with pressure. All the good things that you can possibly succeed in have some sort of pressure attached to them. And you'll never go outside your comfort zone. You'll never progress if you don't at any point take on pressure. And Eddie Nketiah will be looking at this and saying, this is my chance. This is my opportunity. I have to take it. I have to grab it with both hands. And as I've been saying over the last few days, we will have question marks as a fan base, myself included. But at the end of the day, Arsenal, Mikel Arteta, the man who we're lauding at the moment, the man who we're all in love with because of the job that he's done at our football club, and Edu, the other one that we're all in love with, the other one that we're all lauding over, the one that we'd love to have a barbecue with, have decided that Eddie Nketiah is sufficient cover. They gifted him a £100,000 contract. All right, maybe gifted is the wrong word. He's obviously earned it by impressing them. But they gave him a £100,000 a week contract when they could have just let him walk away for free in the summer and use that £100,000 a week to try and lure in maybe a more accomplished striker, maybe someone who on paper has a better history, has had a better career to date, has scored goals perhaps abroad. Because £100,000 a week in wages when you exit the Premier League bubble and look around Europe is a lot of money. And you could bring in quite a good player for that. Okay, you'd have to fork out on the transfer fee. But I always think it's the wages that kill football clubs more than individual transfer fees. So Arsenal have decided that this guy is good enough, in their opinion. There has to come a point where, as fans, when we see the progress on the field the way we have, that we have to almost just say, you know what? I do have my own personal reservations, my own insecurities about what this could mean and about how this will pan out. But ultimately, we have to trust these people who have made mostly correct decisions thus far, that they've got this one right as well, and that Eddie Nketiah can do this job. And what I saw today was a player who wanted to perform, wanted to shut people up, wanted to give his manager signs of encouragement going into this period in which he's going to be the main man. And I thought that Eddie did that for me today. He did. He scored a goal. You know, it was a really nice Arsenal move. It was the second goal. The ball broke to Lokonga in midfield. He looked up and he saw Fabio Vieira on the right-hand side in acres of space. He picked him out with a first-time ball. Great ball from Lokonga, you have to say. Vieira takes it down superbly, drives towards the penalty area, looks up, spots Eddie Nketiah in a better position with the outside of his boot, just guides it across the penalty area. And Nketiah, calm and composed, okay, not under any pressure, but calm and composed, opens up his body and steers the ball into the far corner to add Arsenal's second. It was like a Thierry Henry style finish. You know, the inside of the boot, guide it into the far corner. Brilliantly done. Now, outside of that, I thought his movement was good. I thought he showed a willingness to run channels. I thought he picked up the ball and carried it a few times and did what Gabby Jesus does when he likes to, you know, get on the ball, but not just, you know, it's not necessarily going to lead to a blockbuster defense splitting pass. But what you're going to get is you're going to get a situation whereby the forward has the ball at his feet, and that attracts people. That attracts centre halves. It attracts defensive midfielders all into an area whereby if you can then hold on to the ball in and draw them all in, if you can then play even the simplest of passes, you create advantages for your team. You create spaces. You create situations from which your team can take advantage. And Eddie Nketiah did that a few times today. Now, look, I know this is a friendly. I'm not getting carried away. I know that Lyon aren't the best opposition in the world. I know that this is something that he might not necessarily be able to replicate week in, week out in the Premier League. But we have to give this guy a chance because we've given him the contract that suggests that he does have a responsibility in this squad and that the club feel that he can step up when needed. We can't sign anyone until the January transfer window opens. And even if we did move to sign a striker in the January window, what would be the chances of getting that deal done on day one? We are going to go through a period of time now with Eddie Nketiah playing at centre forward. So instead of sitting there moaning about it and crying about it and whinging about it and talking about how Mikel Arteta and Eddie got this so horribly wrong and how this was always going to happen and now we're doomed and the season's over and we're not even going to finish fourth, as I've heard from some ridiculous people over the last few days, how about we get behind the guy? How about we support the guy? How about we back Eddie Nketiah to go out there and deliver what the club clearly believe he can? And how about we back him to go out there and take his opportunity with both hands? That's where I'm at on it, okay? Yeah, we'd all love a top elite level striker to be able to come in off the substitutes bench, but it's not always as easy as that. For how many years have Tottenham lacked a good centre forward option? And I'm talking about as an alternative to Harry Kane for years and years and years. And you know why? Because nobody wanted to go there based on the fact that they knew they wouldn't play. It's not always easy to have elite backup players. You got to be in all competitions. You got to be in all the best competitions. You got to have the money, the funds, the sort of ambition to be able to accommodate having such a big squad of brilliant players. And Arsenal are not there yet. Maybe we'll be there in a couple of years' time. Maybe there'll come a time where we're competing right at the top of the Premier League for the title when we're also hoping to go into the latter stages of the Champions League, in which case things might look different. But right now, this is where we're at. Martinelli's an alternative. A lot of people have talked about that. There's a possibility that we might see that at certain points if it doesn't work for Nketiah or if he was to pick up a knock. Emile Smith-Rowe is on the path to recovery, which is obviously good. But yeah, look, I'm not saying that you should go crazy over Eddie Nketiah's performance in a friendly in the very prestigious, as I said earlier, Dubai Super Cup against Olympique Lyonnais. But what I am saying is that we've got to back this guy now. And we've got to hope that in this period of time where Arsenal are obviously at a training camp, that Mikel Arteta can spend a lot of time one-on-one with Eddie Nketiah, because we know this is coming now, right? This is not Jesus picks up an injury on Friday, he's out for the weekend, and you've got a day to, think about what you're going to do with it and think about how you're going to tackle the situation. This is very different. We know that when we return on Boxing Day, we'll be without Gabriel Jesus. And Arsenal on this training camp have an opportunity now to get Eddie Nketiah up to speed, to get Eddie Nketiah to where he needs to be, to spend the time with him one-on-one, to sort of educate him that little bit more tactically if we need to show him videos of the things that Jesus does so effectively and the knock-on effect that they have and the impact that they have. Because I always think when you want to get someone to do something, for them to understand the why is the first thing, and it's the most important thing. If you understand the why and then you believe in something, you are more inclined to put that extra bit of effort in, I would say, to make sure that you're doing them in the best way possible. So, yeah, I took encouragement from his performance today, and I'm going to back him and I'm going to support him, and we'll see where it takes us and where we end up. If it doesn't work, I'll say it's not working. I'm not afraid to do that, but I am afraid. No, afraid's not the right word. I don't want to knock players and shoot players down, especially our own players, before they've had a chance. And this season, Eddie Nketiah hasn't really had a chance, has he, in the Premier League to play with the best Arsenal team? Forget what he does in the Carabao Cup. He's got duds around him. Forget what he does in the Europa League, because, the intensity of some of those games has been really, really low. And again, all right, maybe duds isn't the word I should use, but there are players in those teams and in those games, involved in those games, that aren't of the level of the players that he's going to be playing with in the Premier League week in, week out. And if you take that small sample we saw at the back end of last season, Eddie Nketiah with the first team is a much better player. So let's see where we go. Okay, that's enough. Nketiah loving. Fabio Vieira, we were having a discussion on our live watch along about him. You know, what does the future hold for him? Is he good enough? I think he still divides opinion among a lot of Arsenal fans. But what is abundantly clear is that from a technical standpoint, purely, this guy is unreal. He's brilliant. He's a great passer of the ball. We saw the technique in the build up to obviously the second goal. And then the third goal was an absolute rocket from him from outside the box, from a similar position to the one he scored from against Brentford in the Premier League, into the top corner. Goalkeeper, absolutely no chance. And that essentially puts the game to bed. I still think that playing from a wide area is probably where I see Fabio Vieira fit into Arsenal right now, because I don't think that physically he's up to playing as one of the eights. I think in a game where you're chasing it and when things are getting a bit desperate and you're quite willing to take that risk and maybe abandon that little bit of additional stability, then, yeah, throw him in as an eight. But for me, I still think he's going to do his best work for Arsenal right now from those wide positions. And I've said that to you guys from the day he signed. So, yeah, let's see how that goes as well. But yeah, decent performance for him. He came off at half-time and was replaced by Marquinhos, who also gave quite a good account of himself as well. Missed a shot from the edge of the box. It was a great shot, which come off the top of the crossbar. But yeah, again, encouraging signs from him as well. Lokonga looked a bit better to me today as well, playing in the 8 role rather than in the 6 role. And we've had that conversation quite a bit in recent months about how that's probably the way to go with Lokonga, and that I don't think the club just yet are ready to give up on him. I think he will be here moving forward for a little bit longer. I think he'll get additional time to prove himself and to prove his worth. Gabriel, of course, got the opener. Good to see him in the side as well. But one of the other players I really wanted to highlight, this is not going to be an awfully long episode because from friendlies, how much can you take away, really? But I think there were a few points that I really wanted to highlight off the back of this one. But I wanted to talk about Karl Hein, because obviously the last time we saw Karl Hein was against Brighton, and he didn't have a great game in the Carabao Cup. I was working on that game for BBC London, and I remember saying in the build-up to it that, I was surprised that Karl Hein had got the nod. And I was surprised that Karl Hein had been given the opportunity because he never seemed to get them in the lead up. And, maybe the stars aligned that day with Matt Turner's absence and all of that. And Arsenal gave him that opportunity. But then I remember him messing up for one of the Brighton goals. And then I remember sort of sitting there thinking on the night, man, that you build up to this, you're desperate for this opportunity, and then you go and have a howler like that, and you're almost looking at the manager at that point and thinking, mate, like, surely you've seen more from Karl Hein. Surely you've seen enough from Karl Hein in training to know that that is just a blip. That is just a difficult moment, and he's going to have to, pick himself up and move on from it. And I think at the same time, sometimes those mistakes, they can make you. They can often break you, but they can make you as well. And I think that, Karl Hein came into today's game, albeit a friendly, feeling a bit of pressure, feeling as if he had to sort of justify selection, and feeling as though he had to prove to Mikel Arteta that actually what he saw against Brighton, which was not a great performance, was a one-off, and that actually this guy is ready to compete and to play some sort of role in the first team squad. He's Estonia's #1 goalkeeper. I know it's not the biggest nation in the world, and so there isn't going to be, a huge selection of goalkeepers. But, to be an international and play for your country at that age, I think is quite something. So, yeah, good to see him in the side today. And I thought overall he had a good game. I thought he made a couple of really sort of, I'm not going to say they were good stops because he wasn't really worked, but I thought he looked comfortable with the ball at his feet, which he didn't against Brighton. He looked really composed today. Looked like he was willing to take his time. Now, look, the difference is against Lyon side with Alexander Lacazette up front, you're not really going to get pressed and closed down in the way that you would against a Brighton side that are very enthusiastic, very energetic under Roberto De Zerbi. But, he still looked composed on the ball, and he clipped a couple of really nice passes out to the fullbacks, which is something that Aaron Ramsdale does very regularly. and something that is obviously a feature of our game. So it was good to see him, taking on that side of it. And then in the penalty shootout, and for people asking why the hell there was a penalty shootout when Arsenal won 3-0, there's a ridiculous rule in this competition that every game has to have a penalty shootout at the end of it for added entertainment. And the winner of that shootout gets an additional point. So Arsenal essentially earned 4 points today from one game because they won 2-1 on penalties as well. But Karl Hein goes into the penalties. And as a goalkeeper, I always think in penalties, you don't have an awful lot to lose. If you don't save them, well, that's okay. The goalkeeper's not expected to save penalties. But if you do, you have an opportunity to make yourself a real hero. And again, although this isn't a competition of any prestige, of any significance, it's no mean feat to go out as a goalkeeper into a shootout and save 4 penalties. That's what he did. Just the 4. Karl Hein saved 4 penalties. And some of them were really good saves as well. But look, some of them were shit penalties. I'll come on to talk about that in a minute as well, because we have to. But to guess the right way on so many occasions, I think is great. I think it shows that you can read people. I think as a goalkeeper, that's really important, especially in those one-on-one pressured situations. And so credit to Karl Hein, because not only did he give a good account of himself, during the game, he obviously stepped up in the penalty shootout as well. The penalties were poor, generally speaking. Arsenal only had to take 4. They missed 2 of them as well. Obviously, the worst Arsenal miss was that of Nketiah, who, listen, I'm a big fan of. I've said before that I think he's the one in that under-21 group that I think probably has the highest ceiling. He's the one for me that I think can go on and be a first-team regular in the not-too-distant future if he continues the way he is. He was out injured last season. He's bounced back brilliantly. Had the pleasure of covering a couple of games he was involved in for the Arsenal just a few weeks ago. And I really like what I see. And then, again, okay, look, it's almost a faux penalty shootout, right? Because it doesn't really matter. And that level of pressure that you get in the big shootouts, it wasn't there. So, maybe this is a bit of a false kind of a false picture, a false indication of where he's at. But he stepped up to take a Panenka penalty, which has become a bit of a thing now since, it's been a thing for a while. But, I mean, sometimes we see them in really big occasions. We saw Achraf Hakimi step up and do that for Morocco to put them through against Spain in the World Cup. And that was incredibly ballsy. That was incredibly brave from Achraf Hakimi. But he's a senior pro who's played at top clubs, who's been at Inter, who's been, linked with Real Madrid, and has been part of Real Madrid's setup, I believe, is now at Paris Saint-Germain. Yeah, you kind of expect that from someone like that. But I think for a young player like Chirian to step up and take a Panenka penalty and get it so bloody wrong, it's not a good look. It's not a good look. I think senior players, no, let me rephrase this. I think players earn the right to try things like that over their careers. And I think as a young player, if he scores it, you all sit there and you go, oh my God, look at the confidence on this young man. It's admirable. It's beautiful. It's brilliant. But I look at it differently. I think at this point in your career, mate, just stick the ball in the back of the net. And he steps up to take the Panenka and he chips it straight down the middle. And there it is. Easy save. Having said that, Shakir, if that's his name, the Lyon man, stepped up to take Lyon's final penalty. And all he needed to do was score to keep the shootout going. And he too tried a Panenka, which he chipped straight into the arms of Karl Hein. So when I said he saved 4 penalties, one of them was gifted to him. But my God, what was it with some of those penalties? The youngsters, I thought, really showed their inexperience on both sides, by the way, during that shootout, because I thought the standard of it was really poor. If you thought the shootout that involved Spain the other day was bad, if you thought the one that involved Japan was bad as well, this is something to behold. I promise you. Check it out. The penalties were really, really poor. The only kind of other talking point that I sort of noted down while watching this game and something that I wanted to discuss on the podcast is what is going on with Alexander Zinchenko. He's been riddled with injury problems throughout the duration of the season, and he wasn't involved in the friendly against Watford behind closed doors. And now, And again, I beg your pardon, he wasn't involved today. Now, I did see him on the bench. So he is there, and he is, I'm assuming, taking part in some training, because we haven't heard anything to the contrary. But is there concerns over his fitness? Again, are Arsenal worried about something? That is not a good sign, because he, just like Jesus, has been a really transformational player for us. We've got away with not having him for periods of time because we've got pretty good cover in Kieran Tierney. But at the same time, you know, I think when he does play, he gives us something different, something that Kieran Tierney, I'm sorry, just isn't capable of giving us. And that's that control of football matches, because of his ability to step in field, join the midfield, to pick out passes, to give us rhythm, tempo, his experience, his winning mentality, all of the above is very, very important. But I am a little bit concerned about what's going on with Alexander Zinchenko. I don't know if there's any further detail on that. I wonder if Mikel Arteta will be asked about it post-match. We shall see. But yeah, that was the only other real talking point for me. A dominant Arsenal performance, a very good Arsenal performance, wholesale changes made in the second half. A lot of the young lads managed to get on, as we expected would be the case. And I was saying it in my live watch along, you know, although there isn't pressure, although it's a friendly, to be able to give these lads a taste of a match like this, to be able to give them an indication and a sign, and a showing that, you know, first team football is not a million miles away for them if they do the right things and keep progressing, I think is great. And I think it's great management. You know, they get to go along because of how many players are, of course, away on international duty. We should start slowly getting some of those guys back, which will obviously help. But yeah, against Milan on Tuesday, we'll be doing the same thing. We'll do a stream, we'll do a live watch along of the game, and then we will bring you some reaction to the game like we're doing today shortly afterwards as well. Could I just ask, if you haven't done so already, please do leave a like on the video. There is nearly 400 of you with me live right now. There's no reason why we shouldn't have at least a couple of hundred likes on the video. So please do like, and also subscribe, because as I said at the top of the show, we're less than 300 subs away from hitting that 25,000 milestone, which I really want to get. I'll be so proud when we get there. I'll be so proud. Look, in 2020, right, August the 10th, 2020, I've got it up on my wall because I got someone printed me a certificate thing. On August the 10th, 2020, so that's what, 2.5 years ago. Yeah. Is that right? Is it 2022 now, 2023? Yeah. On August the 10th, 2020, we hit 5,000 subscribers. So in 2.5 years, not even 2.5 years, 2 years and 4 months, we could have potentially times that by 5. That is unbelievable growth. And that's all thanks to you guys. And that's just the YouTube community. That's not even including all the lovely, wonderful people that tune in via the podcast, of which there are plenty, because our download numbers on there are incredible as well. So thank you to every single one of you. I just want to say that from the bottom of my heart. So please do like, please do subscribe. And also, if you fancy becoming a member, if you want to go that step further and support and get access to our premium content, you can do so via the information in the description below. And as I say, for those of you that sign up and those of you that are currently existing members, I'll be logging in at the weekend and gifting you all 2 months free membership to say thanks. It's my Christmas present to you all. So, yeah, happy days. Thank you all so much. Arsenal defeated Lyon by 3-0 and on penalties as well in the very prestigious, special, sublime, amazing, brilliant Dubai Super Cup. And so we're on our way. Dubai Super Cup. You'll never sing that. I'll catch you soon. Until next time, take care. Cheers, guys. Goodbye.
I'm Martin Tyler, and you're listening to Harry Symeou.